And Jeffrey Goldberg, author of that profile and editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, joins me now. I mean, Jeffrey, I think the first word on everybody's mind was wow. I think we lived in that moment. We saw what happened on January 6th. We had a little bit of inclination, but I think this profile gives us the most in-depth, accurate description of what Mark Milley did. And I want to read a part of what you wrote. You said, in the chaotic period before and after the 2020 election, Milley did as much as or more than any other American to defend the constitutional order, to prevent the military from being deployed against the American people, and to forestall the eruption of wars with America's nuclear-armed adversaries. Along the way, Milley deflected Trump's extortions to have the U.S. military ignore and even on occasion commit war crimes. And I guess everyone's question this morning is, what happens if this guy comes back? What happens if Donald Trump is reelected?
Yeah, that's the question there's no good answer to, because the feeling is that the one thing that militated against Trump destroying the government, right, to put it bluntly, was that it was a combination of inexperience and having so-called grown-ups in the room. Remember the first couple of years of the Trump administration. There was Jim Mattis and John Kelly and H.R. McMaster and Rex Tillerson, all these guys, and some of them even had a kind of unofficial pact that, you know, like almost like babysitters, like, you're going to stay in Washington, right, so somebody's watching the White House. I mean, it sounds crazy in retrospect, but there we were. But the next time around, it's going to be Stephen Miller's all the way down. Yeah. In other words, it's going to be the true believers. It's not going to be the people that most of Washington, center left to center right Washington would consider the grown-ups. And, you know, you bring up C.Q. Brown. It's interesting because this will be the reverse of Milley's experience. C.Q. Brown is starting under Biden. And obviously, this is not to comment on the ideological differences, but just the behavioral normalcy of the Biden White House as opposed to the Trump White House. So he's starting there. But if Trump wins, and there's a, you know, I don't think any of us are kidding ourselves when we say that he could win again. Then you go into a situation where all of a sudden, and I've been very blunt in this piece, all of a sudden you're a general who's reporting to an unstable president. And that was the thing about General Milley. He did a lot across his career. But the thing that makes him unique as a chairman of the Joint Chiefs is that he's the first of the 20 chairmen we've had since World War II, when the position was created, to ever work for somebody that a lot of people consider to be emotionally, mentally, intellectually unfit, morally unfit to be president.
So to that point, that you write about this meeting that took place on January the 6th between General Milley and the nuclear commander, the officers in charge of the nuclear arsenal, which I think would give all of us, now that we read it, this moment of pause. Why do you feel he was compelled to do that? I mean, to the point of Donald Trump's intellectual
Well, the predicate was, so right after January 6th, right after the attack on the Capitol, Nancy Pelosi calls, who's then the speaker, calls General Milley and says, he's crazy. I know he's crazy. You know he's crazy. And Milley is putting this, you know, remember, these are nonpartisan, apolitical positions. So he's like, you know, the Speaker of the House is saying it, and he's like, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And he said, I'm worried, this is what Nancy Pelosi says, I'm worried that he's going to launch a nuclear war, you know, in the 2 weeks that he has left in his presidency. And he says, it can't happen. This is why it can't happen. These are the systems we have in place, et cetera, et cetera. But then, as he has described it, out of an abundance of caution, he said, let's get everybody together, everybody in the chain of command, everybody who's an expert in this building, and at Strategic Command, at STRATCOM in Omaha. And I just want to talk everybody through all of these procedures. And one of the things that he said to this group, very high-level group of generals and admirals, is he said, if you hear anything strange coming out of the White House, remember this happened at the end of the Nixon administration, by the way. This has some precedent. But he said, anything weird, anything strange, you know, just let the Joint Chiefs know. Because remember,
He's technically not in the chain of command.
We're a democracy, except when it comes to nuclear policy. Right. The president is, and this is the term that's been used, a nuclear monarch. The president can order the use of nuclear weapons. He tells the Secretary of Defense. Secretary of Defense tells the guys out in Omaha. Then they launch. They can't launch if it's in a legal order, and this is where it becomes very fuzzy. And that's why you have the chairman, you know, not in the chain of command, but in the consultative group around nuclear war. And so The only point I would make, and I think this is like the core of it. The job, first and foremost, the president is commander-in-chief. You're in charge of the weapons that could destroy the world. Yeah. And when your chairman of the Joint Chiefs thinks, you know what, maybe this is not the most appropriate person to have in charge of this. We're in a serious situation.
Thing is, like, General Milley has to understand that, but also convey to our adversaries who may think this is a good opportunity to strike America or exploit America's vulnerability, who are also nuclear armed, not to do it. So he was communicating to his counterparts, don't look at what is happening in Washington and think we're unstable, even though he probably felt.
But what he's saying is we're not unstable. And the reason we're not unstable is because you got guys like me, and you got other people in the system, and all of the generals and admirals are professionals, and you don't have to worry about it.